This is Extra Paycheck Podcast, episode number 33.
You're listening to Extra Paycheck Podcast, where you will learn how to build and grow your own successful online business. Now, here's your host, Alex Soul.
Welcome to yet another episode of Extra Paycheck Podcast. This is episode number 33, and today's special guest is Jonathan Levi. Jonathan is an accomplished entrepreneur who's done a lot of things in his life, a lot of amazing things, and at this point, he is one of the top performers at Udemy selling his online courses. Well, this and a lot more is coming up to you in this episode, so enjoy today's show. Hi, Jonathan, and welcome to the Extra Paycheck Podcast.
Hey, Alex. Thanks for having me.
Jonathan, can you tell us a little bit more about your personal story and the business that you're in right now?
Yeah. So I started out very early on as an entrepreneur, really as a kid. And I started doing all kinds of different projects from really the age of 4 or 5. And none of them worked. You know, I tried a DJ business. I tried a handmade goods business, a web design business. None of them worked until I was about 16. And that's when I started a luxury auto parts company online. And long story short, I ran that company for about 7 years, grew it into a multi-million-dollar business, Inc. 5000 rated company. After I graduated college, I decided it wasn't how I wanted to spend the rest of my life. So we sold that business in 2011. And then I started doing some angel investment, essentially kind of hanging out, waiting for business school to start a year later. And during that time, I met someone who was what I would later come to call a super learner and could read 1,500 words a minute, 2,000 words a minute with 80 to 90% retention. And so he and his wife trained me on how to do these incredible feats of learning. And in short, it kind of changed my life. So immediately after business school, what I ended up doing was building an online course, translating a lot of their materials into English. And I mean, if you fast forward today, we've taught 50,000 people how to read and learn more effectively. We've published a best-selling book. We have a blog and a podcast. I recently gave a TED Talk. So yeah, kind of accelerated learning is my deal these days.
That is really awesome, and it's really impressive that you started kind of company that you did when you were 16, and it went into becoming a multi-million-dollar organization that I guess was really successful. And could you tell me a little bit more about that company? As in, what kind of what do you mean by luxury car parts? What was that exactly?
Yeah, so we were selling upgrades for BMWs mostly. And when I say upgrades, I mean tweaking little things that come chrome. Maybe you don't want them to be chrome, or adding upgrade wheels, improving the lighting system, improving the exhaust system. So kind of converting these run-of-the-mill BMWs into show cars or race-ready cars.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so I guess performance and aesthetics as well, like angel eyes and stuff
exactly.
Like that. Exactly. All right. Awesome. So you got rid of that. And I'm just curious because I guess I'm not into cars as much as I used to be. Maybe it's because the age thing as well, kind of like, well, car is a car. Yeah, I like it when it looks nice, but I don't care about it so much. But I'm still curious, about cars and everything that has to do with cars and so on. So this is why I'm asking you this question.
Yeah, I can relate to that sentiment for sure.
Yeah, so you've moved on, and I've seen your profile on Udemy, and it seems like you've translated the course that you're selling, the courses like in different languages, but because I guess there's a demand in different languages, and this is actually really rare that I see people do on Udemy, even if it's like successful courses. For some reason, people just don't translate them and sell them to a wider audience and like help people around the world, not just the English speaking people. How did you get to that idea?
Well, to be honest with you, it started out just with friends of mine who said, hey, I could translate this. I'm looking for a passive income opportunity. To be completely honest with you, I understand why a lot of other instructors don't do it. It's not incredibly revenue generating or profitable right now, just because, at least on the Udemy platform, they're still very much English market focused. I mean, 56% of our students are in the United States. Another 16 or 18% are in the UK and Australia, respectively. So really, most of our students are in English speaking countries, and it almost, I don't know if we've broken even on any of our translation efforts. So part of it is, doing it for the good of doing it because it's the right thing to do for those markets and trying to reach as many people as possible with our message. But from a business perspective, it doesn't yet make great sense. Mm-hmm. So I know Udemy has hired a lot of new people and they're working very aggressively on international expansion, but up until now, it hasn't been completely worthwhile.
Mm-hmm. It makes a lot of sense. And I remember back a few years back, I think ClickBank was it that introduced a Spanish platform, and as far as I know, it didn't go so well for the same reason that most buyers come from UK, Australia, Canada, and US. So it's all English speaking, and nobody really cares for other languages. But I think it's changing slowly, but surely it's changing, and there's more and more people from different countries that would like stuff in their own language.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
I think it's like a long-term thing for you, and eventually it's gonna pick up.
Yeah, I do hope so. We're working now on traditional Chinese for the Taiwanese market, so I do hope it picks up.
That is awesome. And Jonathan, can you give us some hints on how to create a good course, I guess, in Udemy? Because you're, as far as I know, you're one of the top people there, and your courses are like really, really highly rated, and they're in big demand. So how do you come up with a course that people would like and would need? Because it takes a lot of time to create a good course.
Sure. So there are a couple principles, Alex, that I always tell people when they want to create a course. The first one seems obvious, but you'd be shocked how many people don't observe it, which is teach something that people want to learn. And I know, not everyone knows something that people want to learn, but you'd be surprised. There are markets out there for a lot of different things. But people really, really need to validate their interest. It comes down to the whole lean startup, Eric Ries, customer development, Steve Blank, all that stuff. Like any other venture in entrepreneurship, you need to validate your customer base, validate what they want first. So I did a ton of research before I released each one of my courses. I talked to a lot of people. I got a lot of feedback. I answered a lot of questions. I sat over a lot of coffee meetings asking people what they were looking for in a learning acceleration program. So that's number one. Number two is get over this idea that anything can be learned for free. It can. You can learn everything that I teach for free if you spend years and years reading all the books that I've read and reading all the blog posts. I mean, I make up maybe 10%, which is to say I invent maybe 10% of what I teach. The rest is I pull together all the research, all the experts, all the teaching methodologies that have been developed literally over thousands of years, and so the question then becomes, well, why the hell do people pay me all this money for something that can be learned for free? And that's exactly the thing in the answer there that I said is I pull it all together. So I create this enveloping, comprehensive learning experience that holds the student's hand. And they don't have to think about, should I learn this now or should I learn this later? They don't have to wonder, am I missing anything here? Am I ready to learn this? I create an immersive learning experience that takes them from zero all the way to where they want to go. And in exchange for that, I like to use the metaphor of visiting the Taj Mahal. I visited the Taj Mahal earlier this year, and I knew that I could get in for free and I could go visit and I could walk around and I could take my iPhone with me and read all the Wikipedia articles. But you know what? I ended up paying a guide to see the exact same thing that I could see for free. Why? Because the guide told me all the things that were in the Wikipedia article at the right time. And he said, we should stand right here instead of right here because then we'll get a better picture. And, you pay for a quality experience. You don't necessarily pay for what is actually contained in that experience. So I think that's a great metaphor for online courses. Create an experience that is just going to make it easier for your user to learn. I mean, you can learn iOS directly from Apple for free. They have the handbooks, and yet people pay hundreds of dollars to learn this stuff online, and it all comes down to student experience.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. And honestly, this is kind of the same, well, very similar explanation that I often give people when they ask me for the same questions. I don't sell any online courses, but whenever people complain or tell me, well, there's this course and they're charging me money and I don't want to, I could find the information for free. And I tell them exactly the same thing. Yes, you can spend, weeks, months, years of your time to compile the information that you need to learn, or just spend like $100 and get it all properly put together, and it's just so much easier.
Totally.
I think if you value your time, it's so much worth it to pay $100 or even a few $100 for a course.
I mean, honestly, it's not even $100. Like on most podcasts that I've appeared on, including this one, at the end I give a coupon code that people can check out, and it comes down to like $20 or $30. And exactly like you said, I mean, I first took an interest in productivity stuff when I was running my business and going to college at 18. And it's literally been 10 years that I've been researching everything there is to know about productivity, about how to hack your productivity, how to do automation. Everything that I know, Alex, and everything that I've learned in the last 10 years is contained in a 2.5-hour course that sells retail for $199. But if you look on my website, you can get a coupon to get it for $20. I mean, talk about being effective and saving your time. So,
yeah, that's incredible. And all right, Jonathan. So I'd like to go back a little bit to your personal story, and we like talking about success and how you started that company at 16 that ended up making millions of dollars. But there is, well, most of us, if not all of us, have these really, really dark moments at some point or another in our careers, mostly in our entrepreneurship life. Have you had such a bad, dark moment when you wanted to quit and you didn't know what to do? You were like, okay, that's done. I'm just gonna go get a job and it ends there.
How much time do you have? I've had so many. I want to give you 3 of them if that's okay.
Sure, go ahead.
I'll give them to you kind of briefly, and if you want, we can go into more detail. Number 1 was I had a vendor who essentially controlled most of my supply chain, and at one point determined that because I was kind of not doing and saying and behaving the way that he wanted to and selling other people's products, he was going to cut me off completely from basically 70% of my product line. And at that point, I got real angry and I got real worried and I got real upset. And I had to face this really crucial lesson that I've learned today. I mean, if you look at what I do today, I teach speed reading and I teach productivity and I teach personal branding and I podcast. Everything I do is very diverse. I don't rely on one market niche. I don't rely on, one customer base, because I was faced with this realization that either I behave exactly the way this guy wants me to, I pay, 180 days in advance and half the time don't get my products, or I get cut off, and I never want to be in that position again. So that was dark moment and lesson number 1. Dark moment and lesson number 2 actually came after I sold the business. And, I was young. I was 20. I just turned 24 years old. And I had, bought a house and I had cool cars and lots of great friends and a warm and loving family. But I kind of came home and, I cashed the check. I came home and I was like, damn it, what do I do now? And just this incredible sense of emptiness. And then on top of that, I ended up going to EO Alchemy for the Entrepreneurs Organization, which is kind of a little bit like a TED event, but only for entrepreneurs. And everyone on that stage, whether it was Magic Johnson or John Paul DeJoria or the founders of Twitter, all they had to say was, make your business serve people, make your business make the world a better place. Doing good is good business. And I kind of looked at what I'd spent the last 7 years doing, and I said, wow, I've been helping people trick out their cars, and I'm sure I've made a lot of people happy, but have I made the world a better place? And the answer was no, and it made that made it really, really hard for me to be proud of my accomplishments. So that was one of probably the darkest periods in my adult life, is just realizing, what have I been working so hard towards if I haven't really impacted the world? And dark moment number 3 would be after getting out of business school. I had spent kind of the last 4 months of business school working on a startup that I had hoped was going to make the world a better place. It was for essentially charitable-based marketing, trying to engage consumers with companies that were doing good in the world and encourage those companies to do more. And one by one, all the teammates kind of dropped off until the point where it was just me and my software developer in Russia, with whom I've worked for years and years. And, we were in a really dark place. We were trying to raise money for an idea we weren't sure was going to work. We had no users. We had no traction. We had no revenues. And you kind of ask yourself, I've sold a business before, and I have this fancy MBA degree, and I really should be able to know what the hell I'm doing. And it turns out that past failure is a very good indicator of future success, but it's not a guarantee at all. Mm-hmm. And even the most successful people fail, after their successes. So that was a pretty dark moment, and I really had no idea what I was going to do at that point. And that's when, I turned towards what was supposed to be a side project of building an online course. And, here I am today.
Wow, that's that's incredible. And those are pretty dark moments, man.
Yeah, I don't know many entrepreneurs who've had a sunny time throughout their experience.
Yeah, totally. And I like sharing that with the listeners because a lot of people who are just starting out, they have a wrong perception of entrepreneurs, of successful entrepreneurs, and they think of them as these superheroes that have a superpower and nothing ever goes wrong, and they're just like super lucky and super incredibly intelligent.
Yeah, I'll share 2 quotes with you. Hopefully they haven't already been shared on the show, but one of them is, it took me 18 years to become an overnight success.
Yep.
And I believe Jeff Bezos said that. And the second one is that entrepreneurship is living a few years of your life like most people won't, so you can live the rest of your life like most people can't. And boy, does that ring true for me. I mean, all throughout college, I made a lot of sacrificing social relationships, romantic relationships, classroom time. I mean, I have no idea. Really, I don't remember anything that I learned in college because I was working the entire time, doing the bare minimum to, get good grades, but nothing beyond that. And I made those sacrifices. But today I'm humbled and honored to say that I live like most people cannot. I travel 10 weeks a year and I live wherever I want to live. And I've been able to earn that freedom because of the sacrifices I made. So yeah, the dark times, we all go through them, but in the end, it's hopefully worth it.
Yeah, totally. And it's not just about the dark times. What you just mentioned is, well, I'll give you an example. I travel quite a bit, or at least I try to travel a lot. And I don't travel often, but when I do travel, I could travel for like 3, 4, 5 months in a row,
Yeah.
And I had friends that would always like come up to me and ask me I want to do the same thing. Like, I don't want to work at a like minimum wage job. So I would go into explaining to them some concepts of, let's say, online business, either, affiliate marketing or selling your own products on Amazon or whatever it is. And I would tell them the really basics of it, find a niche, you have to generate traffic, blah, blah, blah. And once I start getting into it, people are like, whoa, Alex, I don't want to like do stuff. I don't want to work hard. I just like want to make money and travel the way you do.
Yeah, right.
And I'm like, yeah, okay, that's not going to work.
I mean, for those people, I do have something, which is we have a blog post, which I turned into a podcast called The Complete Beginner's Guide to Passive Income. Now, it's not a way to avoid working hard, but it's a way to minimize the amount of work you have to do. And basically, I go into like the entire economic theory of money and how it works, and then explain that essentially we're living in the first time in history where you can work once and continue to earn for the rest of, your life. Like, you can write a book, like Robert Kiyosaki wrote a book 30 years ago and he's still earning money from it. Rich Dad, Poor Dad, which a lot of what I talk about is based on that book. So, for people like myself who like to work but don't really want to work that much or that often, passive income is the way to go, but you got to be smart about it. I mean, you really have to create incredible value if you want to, you can't half-ass it like you can with a service business.
Yes, but see, Jonathan, once again, that's the thing. You have to work hard. If you do that, let's say you create something of value that would bring a passive income or recurring payments of any sort, right? Instead of selling a service, especially like, becoming a local repairsman of something that, you work for yourself, you charge quite a bit, you charge a lot more than you would ever get paid for you're working for someone doing the same thing. But as soon as you stop going to people's houses to repair the fridge, you stop getting paid. Yeah, that's not a business. That's self-employment, which could be great, but it's not a business. And what you mentioned is, say, creating a business of some sort or creating a product, creating a book, an amazing bestseller that would be like the bestseller for the next 100 years. You still have to initially work really hard to get it out there, to get it done, to get it seen, to get it noticed. There you go. So see, it's there are ways to do it a lot smarter, building that passive income, but you'll still have to work at least at the beginning. You'll have to put in crazy amount of effort.
I always like to tell people money is made like super simple stuff. Like most people never stop to think about what money is. Money is a representation of value, which means that money is made or exchanged where value is exchanged. You cannot find an example. I mean, even charity, you can say, money is exchanged because value will be created. Even if it's the value of the satisfaction of knowing that you helped a village in Tanzania. Money has never changed hands. It never changes hands, rather, unless value is created. And creating value is hard work. So there's no way to escape it. The maximum you can do is creating value intelligently.
Yeah. Totally. And, that kind of like made me smile here. I remember a few years ago, maybe like 5 years ago, I was heavily involved in in different communities of online marketing, right? Mm-hmm. So different forums and stuff. And I would chat with people and I would give my advice whenever I could. I like sharing stuff that worked for me personally, and people would ask questions. And sometimes it would go so far that I would actually have the people chatting with me on Skype on my own time. I would be just like be so interested to help that one person and to explain things. So I would chat with them on Skype. It doesn't matter. I had time to kill. And sometimes I would get like payments, random PayPal payments from these people that told me how broke they are and they don't have a single penny, right? And they would send me still like $100 or something. And I would be like, what's that? And the person would be, coaches charge like $1,000 for this kind of training. And I feel really bad because like I took your time and you gave me so much value. And I was like, wow, that is incredible. People, once again, going back to the thing we started this podcast with is creating that value that people are willing to pay for. And I didn't want to sell it. I didn't ever mention that I would charge for the training or whatever you want to call it, right?
Right.
But some people felt that there was enough value for them to take out the wallet and, like you said, exchange money for the value without me even asking for it.
Exactly.
So yeah, creating value is totally important, especially in our day and time, because I see that in my blog and many other blogs. There's like thousands upon millions of blogs, I think, that exist with information on different kinds of topics. And some of them are really horrible. It just tells you, well, you have to like do product research because it's important. And that's the whole blog post pretty much,
Yeah.
Yeah, I know, but that doesn't. There's no value. I want my 10 seconds back.
Right, exactly.
Why did I just read that? All right, Jonathan. So let's move on a little bit here.
Sure.
And I wanted to ask you a question that I usually ask other guests too. So I'm a beginner entrepreneur. I'm not an entrepreneur. I'm a entrepreneur, right? I just know that I don't want to have a job and I want to start doing stuff. But of course, I doubt myself and I'm scared and I don't know what to do and what's going to happen. What would be like your big suggestion maybe to someone who wants to start something? Like what should I pay the most attention to?
Yeah, well, so there's a lot there. The first thing is to realize that entrepreneurship is not about ideas, it's about solutions. And solutions are about problems. So I think where a lot of people go wrong is they end up looking for ideas. And what you should be looking for is actually problems. Find problems that need solving, that you're passionate about solving, and then design solutions for them. The second thing is try anything. Like I said, I failed 10 times before I started a business that succeeded. You just have to try anything. Any direction, any motion is good motion. Even the failures will teach you so much about yourself and about what it takes to succeed. So just get out there and try things. Try and fail, and then get up really quickly as possible, and try again.
Yeah, that's good advice. And even though that's really, really good advice, it's still hard to.
Of course, yeah.
It's not that easy to come up with something that you enjoy doing and that you're good at, and that would bring value to a lot of people, or like solve a problem of some sort.
Sure.
And I think this is why we're not all millionaire entrepreneurs.
Right.
Because it's not an easy task, and you'll have to really put in, even in that, right? Just coming up with an idea, you'll have to put in a lot of effort and time figuring it out.
Totally.
Or building.
It's not for everybody, Entrepreneurship it's very sexy right now, but it's not for everybody.
Yeah, I agree. And I actually have friends who don't want to do it, not because of the extra work, or maybe it is, but they admit it. They say, I'm happy with the 9 to 5. I'm happy with shutting down my brain once I leave the office.
Right.
I don't care.
Right.
Which I don't think is true, because if you have a job and you work at an office, you don't shut down your brain entirely. You're still going to spend the rest of your evening having thoughts about the next week, the next day, the project coming up at work, your coworkers, and it never ends. It's the same thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think a good example here is Pat Flynn's Smart podcast player. I don't know if you've heard of it.
Yeah.
So what happened in his case that I think he tried creating different software in the past, and he failed many times because nobody wanted the software that he created, and he spent a lot of money paying people to create the app or the software, whatever it was. And eventually, when he started doing his podcast, he couldn't find a player that he liked enough to play his podcast. So he paid people, once again developers, to create him a nice looking player for the podcast, for his website. And it was purely for him. And once he put it up on his website and people started seeing it, he started getting lots of emails. People were like, well, where did you buy that? I want it,
Right.
And eventually he just started selling it to people because there was so much demand. And you see, this goes back to what you said, is like creating a solution for a problem.
Right, and starting small.
There you go, starting small. And in his case, it's really, really, really what you said, because he didn't even look for a way to make money with it. Right. He automatically kind of naturally created a solution to a problem he had himself. He didn't even think that a whole bunch of other people have this problem. I mean, if he thought of that earlier, probably he would have just made more sales and he started making money earlier. But he scratched a really bad itch for himself.
Right.
And there you go. It worked. It picked up, and I don't know how well it sells, but I know that he constantly makes updates because I'm using that player. So I guess people are buying and people are requesting updates and so on.
Yeah, absolutely. It's validation, and it's actually solving a real problem.
Another thing about validation that I'd like to mention here, this once again going back to your story of validating your thoughts and your ideas on creating your course and having all these coffees with people and asking what they would like to see in this kind of program. I read it in the 4-Hour Workweek by Tim Ferriss, when he mentioned that just asking your friends if they think this is a good business idea, if it's a good product, and them saying yes, he's like, that does not mean anything at all.
It doesn't mean anything. That's why the business that failed after business school, that's exactly why it failed, because everyone was like, yeah, this is great. I would totally use it. Wah.
See, and do you know what's the second part to that thing that Tim Ferriss mentioned?
That the only validation that actually matters is a credit card.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
So he said, when all your friends tell you that's an amazing idea and they will totally use it, he was like, tell them, okay, well, can you transfer me $40? And once the software or whatever, the course is ready, I'll let you use it.
Exactly.
He's like, and if they all refuse, well...
You've just come up against politeness training.
Yeah. There you go.
Yeah.
And I have that too. I have that too from time to time, like friends encouraging me on, let's say, stupid ideas,
Right.
things that I'll be like, oh wow, that's gonna break the world, man. That's gonna be like the biggest thing ever. And all your friends like, yeah, you should do that. And then when you start doing more research and asking more people and asking people for money, that's when you're like, yeah, okay, that's gonna break my pocket more than anything else.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, Jonathan. So, what are your plans for the near future? Is it more Udemy, or are you working on other projects, something different?
Oh man, lots of stuff. We're actually in the process next week of recording our masterclass, which is going to be basically from the ground up. We've redone everything about our course, all new videos, all new audio. We've added tons of content. We've refined the teaching methodologies. We've added tons of worksheets, exercises, supplementary material. So we're building essentially a white label course for our most serious and engaged students, which will not be on Udemy. But then we're also going to release a new Udemy course for 2016. And then we're working on a course for teaching super learners, essentially raising super learners from a young age and working with parents to help them prepare their children for super learning.
Oh, that's awesome. And I guess you're really, really like serious about that Udemy thing, right?
Well, I mean, it's 60 to 70% of my income, so I have to be very serious about it. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, serious as in that you're not just upgrading your stuff. You're actually creating new stuff, and you're growing it. You're not keeping it at the same level and be like, that's good enough. You're actually moving forward with it and growing an empire, I would say.
Yeah, for the first 8 or 10 months, we were making really good money, and I just didn't see a reason to do it, at least not for the money. But then, the more we got emails from people telling us how much it impacted their lives, how they were looking to hear more about my productivity strategies, how they want to do what I'm doing for a living, but they'd rather teach, ballet. People kind of request this stuff and you feel obligated. I have a friend, Anthony Mativier, with whom I teach my Branding You course. And he likes to say, if you have knowledge that other people could benefit from, then you're morally obligated to share it. And I believe that to be true. So, yeah, I mean, after kind of a period of being lazy and resting on my laurels, now it's all about growing and reaching more people as fast as possible.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, man. And I guess you also get a lot of ideas on how to upgrade and what kind of content to add from people writing you. I'm sure you have people that tell you what's missing, what else they would like to see in it. And I guess it's so much easier to add more content when you have these kind of pointers and people telling you what's needed.
Exactly. It's built-in customer feedback, Not just that, but when you have an audience of 50,000 students, and you do create the product that they request, it's really fast and easy to get a return on your investment.
It's hard to get this number placed in my head. Let's say, for instance, 50,000 students. That's incredible.
Yeah, we're very kind of humbled by it.
That's really awesome. So this next question, a few questions, is more related to Udemy, I guess. And a lot of people are not familiar with it as how would you call yourself? I don't know, a teacher, a seller? How does one, can you describe in a few short sentences, I guess, or as much time as you need, how does one become a seller on Udemy? How hard is to put up a course and sign up to it and so on?
I mean, their quality standards have increased significantly, but essentially all you have to do is create a video course with enough high quality content, and really anyone can do it. Whether or not the course will sell or succeed is a different story, but it's very democratic. It's very open. It's really super simple they give you even courses on how to teach a course, and the software walks you through every step. So it's really actually incredibly simple to get up and running on there.
But you do need to have a quality product.
Yeah, I mean, it needs to be a minimum 720p. The video needs to look good. The audio needs to look good. It needs to be relatively well edited, and obviously the content needs to be okay.
Well, that's a good thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, well, you know why? When you're paying money for something, See, that's another thing. Yeah, you could find information for free, and you could find it in who knows what kind of quality, and not just the content quality, but also the video quality, the audio quality, or the ebook quality, whatever it is. So when you're paying for it, it also makes sense that it looks good and it sounds good and it's easy to follow.
Right, exactly. Yeah, and Udemy regulating the quality standards really benefits everybody, because if a student comes and they have that bad first experience, they're not going to come back and buy another course. So it's a good thing for sure.
Totally. And Jonathan, do you remember how you started getting your first customers to your course?
Yeah, my first customers were all friends and family. And, I was fortunate that they kind of boosted the course well enough that it kind of picked up, and then immediately Udemy, picked up the course and started marketing it and running with it. So after that first, I would say 50 or 60 people, I didn't really have to do much of anything.
Mm-hmm. So I guess it's kind of like when you start getting sales and reviews, it kind of goes up in rankings and.
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah, and activity in the course as well.
Mm-hmm. It's like the same thing that happens on Amazon rankings and a lot of these kind of platforms.
Bingo.
Where when they see a demand, it goes up in rankings. It goes up in rankings. You get more sales. You get more sales. It goes up in rankings and.
Yeah, the virtuous cycle.
That's how you call it. Okay, man. Well, thanks a lot for sharing all of that. I guess we'll be finishing the podcast soon. And at this moment, I'd like to ask you, how can people find out more about you? How can they get in touch with you? And where can they get your courses?
Yeah, so everything I do is all listed, and there's links and discount codes and everything to all my stuff at jle.vi. So just like my name with a period in the middle. If they want to go straight to the podcast, they can go to becomingasuperhuman.com. But that is located on my website. So you can find everything. If you go into any one of the courses, you can find discount coupons. You can even download a free 10 chapters of my book. Everything's there.
All right. Thanks for sharing that, man.
Of course.
Thank you so much for being on the show. I appreciate you, and I really liked today's chat. A lot of insights and knowledge in here.
It's a pleasure. It's a pleasure, Alex.
Thank you so much for tuning into this episode of Extra Paycheck Podcast. As usual, I will be putting up a show notes page at extrapodcast.com/33. This is where I'll be sharing all the links and resources that we talked about today with Jonathan in this episode. You can subscribe to the Extra Paycheck Podcast directly on iTunes. So go on iTunes and search for Extra Paycheck Podcast, or simply go to extrapodcast.com/iTunes. This is where also you can leave a review and a rating for the show, which I will greatly appreciate. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I'll talk to you next Monday.